It's Peg Alexander here with you for about the next 28 minutes or so. Let's talk about storytelling, because there's a brand new project. It's called The Adventures of Bradford. It's aiming to empower children through storytelling. It's blending a creative writing with neuroscience and looking at how you can use that to enhance emotional well-being and self-belief in young people. I'm very, very pleased that Kate Markland and Tom Hurst from Dixon's Manningham are in the pop-up radio box with me today. Hello, Kate and Tom.
Hi.
Oh, hello, Peg. Thank you so much for inviting us.
No, thank you very much for coming down. So, Kate, let's start with you and your son, because that's where this starts, isn't it?
Yeah, my son Gabriel, he's in year 6, just as Tom's children are in his class. And it was in the summer last year, so end of year 5, I just said to him, when we'd finished actually reading Treasure Island, should we make up a story where you're the hero? And he said yes. And that's where it all began. He orated his stories. He's able to read and write and spell, but that's not how it worked. He orated his stories, I took notes down, and then I typed it up for him like his scribe. Grandad produced images on AI art for him, and then we read it back, and he added his edits. And this ended up becoming a little book, a little series of short stories that he'd orated and I'd scribed for him. And on the back of it, it was presented at Cheltenham Literature Festival. And I had the blessing.
Wow, that is very impressive, I have to say.
Well, I had the blessing of meeting Helen Fielding there, who's from Wakefield, and of Bridget Jones.
Of course, the Bridget Jones writer.
And she really emphasised the importance of one generation writing for itself. So as a 20-year-old, she wrote for 20-year-olds. So the concept of children writing for children was something that she really emphasised as being important.
Yeah.
So I began talking about this because I recognised there was very little literature where it's children writing for children. And Tom's school, well, I wrote to them, and Tom brilliantly spotted the opportunity that this might be something that inspire his class.
So tell us a bit about that, Tom.
Yeah, so when it was handed to me by the head, she said, what do you think about this? So when I was looking at it, it was about breaking, for me, the barriers to education for our children, which is what we constantly want to break down. Up and down the country, the families are facing economic hardship, not just in Bradford, everywhere. So for me, and the language that the children can develop, and just for them, seeing themselves as true writers is massively important. So we worked really hard with the children, and Kate and I had a lot of discourse and conversations about how we were going to fit it in and what we were going to do to give the children the chance to write these magnificent stories.
Is the curriculum flexible enough to allow you to be able to do all of this? Because I know a lot of teachers really worried that space for creativity and new things has been pulled out.
Well, so that is a culture that we have at Dixon's Manningham, where we want the children to be creative. It's a culture that our leadership team have worked hard to create. It's a culture that we as teachers work hard to create, and it's allowing the children to be in that moment of just utter bliss of seeing them just write a story.
And also to put a story with themselves in it as well, because that, one of the things that strikes me from bits of work I've done with young people is that importance of stressing how important they are.
It becomes really purposeful to them, the motivation.
Yeah.
When they're I think the thing that struck me was when the writing is purposeful, or the story is purposeful to them, and they are motivated because it's theirs, and they want to tell everybody about it. The expression they use, the grammar fell into place, other things just followed on, and they'd already got the foundations.
So I think when we did it in the February, as a teacher, and my partner teacher Kirsty, we've already, and all the other teachers beforehand, have already given the children the technical abilities to be able to write a story.
Yeah.
So although we have an awful lot to teach in writing, what we have to teach is huge. By giving the children all those technical aspects and letting them free and be creative, it gives them that, I am a writer, this is me, this is my story, and I'm in control of it.
It's fantastic, really fantastic. What other impacts have you noticed from the children from doing this? Not just that sense of importance of themselves, but...
I think for me, it was seeing the children want to stay in and carry on writing, the boys in particular, they want to...
Has it really captured boys' imagination?
Yeah, absolutely. All the children, but the boys have particularly loved it because they were superheroes.
Yeah.
And the girls have loved it, getting it all in there, because they all had... we had a platypus, didn't you? So
Yeah.
their sidekick. So the children loved having a little sidekick with them and creating that. But they're writing afterwards, you know, seeing how they've brought
Was it just
poetry
so
in,
much
and
better?
they've... Yeah, I mean, we've always had good writing at
Yeah.
our school. We've been blessed in that way with the kids. But it was their motivation to want to keep on writing was a pleasure to see.
And it's really reached the SEND and SHME children as well, in that
That's
they're
the
not
children
so,
with special educational needs, yeah.
They're
And social,
unlocked.
emotion, mental health
Right.
as
They're
well.
unleashed to express themselves. They're not having to conform to constraints. They can share their story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's this been for Gabriel, your son? Because, I mean, if you've been down at Cheltenham Festival and stuff, this is really big. It's a big deal.
He's really, really proud, and he's
I'm not surprised.
most proud of the fact it's inspiring other children.
Yeah.
He keeps saying to me, I check in with him every Friday, shall I keep going with this? And he keeps saying yes.
Wow.
So he's quite clear that we've written the next book, and that's his story, but he's absolutely loving and completely abundant with that it's inspiring other children to have a voice. And I'll be quite curious when he's older what his reflection is back on the constraints he and his friends are seeing in school in comparison to when they have the freedom to say what they want to say.
Absolutely, because there's so much pressure on young people. So much, isn't there? To conform, to be part of things. I'm really struck as well by what you were saying. I mean, I say this on no basis other than my general observations of the world, but I would imagine that in some families, allowing girls to be imaginative is kind of seen as a bit easier, you know, that whereas boys are often asked to be more practical, aren't they? More, you know, and so to give boys that opportunity.
Yeah, which is something we work
Yeah.
hard on. You
Yeah.
know, we work hard on really working with all the children so they can be imaginative, so they can be curious about the world around them. Really, we want them to be lifelong learners. We want them to leave us with a perfect foundation for the rest of their educational life and then further.
But you're quite right, Peg. We didn't see any shyness or inhibitions or embarrassment. They were really celebrating each other's stories, and some of the boys came out with some really beautiful language, and there was no teasing. It was absolutely the opposite. They were really, at Dixon's Manning,
Wonderful.
uplifting each other and trying to help each other up-level their stories.
That's wonderful, because that's not just about writing skills, is it? That's about emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And getting that into
Yeah.
children right
Yeah.
from that age,
Yeah.
and especially to boys. I mean, I live in Headingley, and this weekend we've seen the worst thing that happens
Absolutely, yeah.
when people have, when we don't allow. I'm not going to say any more. because
No, my
obviously
background
there's
is
legal cases
in
and
healthcare,
stuff, but-
and so for 20 years I've basically extracted people's stories. I'm not a teacher by background, I'm a health professional by background. And the answer always lies in people's stories.
It's always story. Everything is stories, because as a comms person, everything is story.
And if you don't extract
Yeah.
a person's story, you are never going to get to the root of the cause. And one of the beautiful things in the workshops was seeing the children really listen to their friends' stories. I've got a lovely picture from Tom's school of about 6 boys round a table listening to each other's stories. So they all feel heard and they're listening with the intent to just add a little bit of detail. Tell me that bit more about your imagination. Tell me that bit more about what you're seeing. And that's what we need more of.
I
And if
want
they
to
can
cry
learn-
listening to you saying that. I genuinely do.
Well, I think you were talking about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, we forget, or it's sometimes overlooked by, probably people who aren't in education all the time, that's something that we have to teach. You know, it is in our curriculum now. You know, I know that's something that Terry is really keen on. You know, we do My Happy Mind and all, breathing exercises and all these other things that is actually so important in writing, so they keep on going, so they've got the motivation to keep on going. We all get writer's block, children do, especially, they're 10, 11 years old, and we're saying, right, you're going to write an A4 page on a blank page, and that is scary to
It is
some
scary,
children.
yeah.
But we give them the emotional intelligence, and we teach it through the school right from early years up to year 6, and then they are free to do what
Oh,
they write
fantastic.
and what they want to write about.
And I know it's a way ahead, but it'll be so interesting for you and your son when he looks back to be able to see what he sparked, not just the books themselves,
Oh, and do you
but to
know-
look back and to be able to think, I've had a role in trying to make this world a better place as a kid. Is just an unbelievable.
Yeah, I
thing
don't
to
think
do.
he
He won't
can
see
see
that
that
yet.
at the minute.
No.
But the beautiful thing about it being in Bradford is Gabriel's grandma's from Bradford, my grandfather's from Bradford, and I can still hear in my head, in his wonderful Yorkshire accents, the stories and the monologues he used to read to us. And that's where I think it's so important, this storytelling in children, because it lasts generations.
It absolutely does. I'm blown away by what you've been telling us, by the fact that you're doing it, Kate, by the fact you're doing it, Tom, in the school. Totally blown away. If anybody wants to find out more about it or wants to get hold of one of the books or whatever, what do they do?
Oh, well, if they want to find out more about it, Tom is in the Yorkshire Post today and the Yorkshire Evening Post. So if you go to the Yorkshire Post and look up Dixon's Manningham, you'll find the article and see
Great.
Tom's children involved. Or you can go to www.theadventuresofgabriel.com/Bradford and find out more there.
And you can buy the book there.
You can buy the book there, and you can hear Tom and his colleague Kirsty discussing how the workshop ran in their school too.
And when's the next book out?
The next book, I keep being pinned on this. I'm going to say by the end of June, but I'm hoping if there's not too many edits, by the beginning of June. It depends on the editor and my time to make them.
Fantastic. Listen, thank you so much, both of
you.
you, for coming down,
Thank
especially
you.
since you're star of media today as well, Tom. Thank you so
Wonderful,
much.
thank you.
Thank you for coming down, Tom Hersett from Dixon's Manningham, and Kate Markland, thank you so much, and what an amazing, amazing piece of work, amazing things that you're doing. Wow. I tell you what, I never cease to get blown away on this show by the things that people are doing in Bradford.